This is The Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so fired up about today's solo-sode, an absolute high-frequency transmission. No structure today. Sometimes, for those of you who are new here, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. And I promise that this is going to be a really epic first episode for you. A lot of times I come in with solo-sodes and I have a very thought out idea of something I'd like to share, a topic I want to tease out. And there's, some structure that I've built around the episode, right? It's always freestyled, but there is some structure. And then there's episodes, there's these moments like today where it's really just a free flow of deep thoughts that I've been having over especially the last couple of days. I've been traveling and I'll dive into that. But yeah, I promise so a couple of the subjects, I promise you will be elevated by the time you finish taking in this episode. But I want to touch on some notes on manifestation. I want to touch on some really core principles in self-mastery. I want to storytell with you as well. Some of my recent experiences that have really helped to fortify more of my own self-trust, my own self-belief. These are subjects that I'm always talking about, right? And they're, core pillars of self-mastery. So definitely stay with me this whole episode. You will not regret this time. Before we dive in, I do want to ask you, if you have not already given my podcast, The Roxanne Show, a 5-star rating and review, and you are one of my beautiful listeners who you're always DMing me, you're always telling me how much you love the show and how much it's impacting you. And I'm so grateful because I get these messages so often, literally every week. Please take some of that energy and that messaging over to the link that's in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, it is in the description. There's an easy link where you can click on it from wherever you're taken in the episode, and it will lead you to where you can rate the podcast. Make sure you hit 5 and leave a little review. It means so much to me. It means so much to my team. We seriously work our ass off to make this show what it is and to have it be growing to the next level of the podcast that it is on its way to being. And you are a part of that. So thank you in advance for all of you who will do that. And now let's dive in. All right. So, and I have some fun stuff here too. If you're not watching this on YouTube, I brought my Instant Magic Oracle book and I want to open that up before we wrap out. But yeah, so let's start with some fun storytelling. So I was traveling the last couple of days and I want to lead this with so notes on manifestation, right? Manifestation, law of attraction, I call it really law of resonance. I've done an episode on manifestation before. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well if you want to check that out. But in my life, it's not a matter of does manifestation work or not. You're always manifesting. It's just, what are you manifesting and are you conscious of it? Because I am a firm believer, and this is not just a spiritual thought, this is actual quantum physics, that our thoughts, our dominant thoughts, and the feelings that are being emitted within us and out from us is creating our reality. And a lot of that, the thoughts, the beliefs, the feelings are primarily centered around what we believe about ourselves, right? It makes it really interesting. And I can talk about that more after, but let's start with a fun story. I'm in the airport and I'm in the security line, and I love studying humans, okay? The reason why I'm in this position, or one reason why, this is a little insert, is because my whole life, human behavior has been really fascinating to me, and really cognitive sciences without me really knowing any of that, like, neuroscience or neurobiology or psychology, right? It was just really simply, I really was fascinated and enjoyed studying how individuals just, exist and how they react and how they move through life, right? And it's truly observation and not judgment, right? And so I'm in the security line and there's a woman in there and she's a little older and she has this funny personality. Like, I don't know if she was drinking at all. I mean, this is Vegas going to Los Angeles. So there could have been that. But she was really cute at the same time. And she was just like so tense and nervous. She was like, yeah, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. And I always seem to be, the one that, just has a hard time going through security. And I'm just listening to her and, people are kind of around her, kind of like, and whatever. And so she's kind of talking to herself, but also, loud enough for everybody around her to hear it, right? So she just had nervous energy, but she was, again, she had this sweetness to her. I don't know, there was something in her energy that was also like, oh my God, I don't know. It's just like, so I'm just listening to her and she's just going for a couple of minutes. And I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes in, just listening to her, where I finally felt like, fuck, I got to step in. And I'm not like that. I'm very mind your business girl. But I couldn't help it. I'm a self-mastery mentor for a fucking reason, because it's just naturally actually who I am. But she was like, I'm probably going to be the one, who gets stuck at security or stopped, whatever the words were. And I was like, well, don't manifest that. And she literally just paused and she was like, you're right. And it was like, I know I got through to her in that moment. And I was like, yeah, I mean, she goes, no, you're right. You're right. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, you're going to make it. You have time. I don't even know what the fuck time and then she goes, I have 25 minutes. I'm like, you're going to make it, And let me just put a little insert here. You, as in any one of us, when we are doing that when we have those scripts going and that haste and that energy, I just want you to know that you're actually fucking speeding up the clock. You really are. Time is just a construct of our mind. It's a human construct. It doesn't even exist. Energy is the truth. And when your energy is just continuously putting out, I'm going to be late, 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 you can guarantee that you're going to be late. Right. And so then now we have to move towards the, conveyor belt and actually put our stuff on the security. And she actually found a line that had a little less people. And I was like, cool. So I followed her and I was like, I'm going to stay close to you now. And then, she puts her bag in and, I'm kind of doing my thing and then I put my bag in and then we get through to the other side. And now we're all waiting. And, she's going again. She's like, I don't even remember at first what she was saying, but I heard her say, well, it's probably going to be me. Cause the bags had stopped for a moment. And she goes, it's probably me that, is, the reason why the bags stopped. And I just looked at her and she goes, I wish you were watching. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should watch it on YouTube. She literally looked at me like a kid who just got in trouble from mom or dad. She was like, oh. And it was so funny. And I just started laughing because it wasn't about me. It was me holding a mirror to her. Hello, you don't even realize it. And here's the fucking thing to point out. That is so common. We run on programs. Subconscious, unconscious programs. The more conscious you can become in your life, the more present you can become, where you have the most control over your experience, right? But it takes a lot of work to get to this place where you are operating with more conscious awareness, right? And so, I said to her, I'm like, you don't even notice it. It's just your scripts. And that wasn't being mean. That was just, she agreed, And then she goes, oh, this is the first time I didn't get stopped by security. And I'm like, well. And she said to me, I'm never going to forget you. She goes, you're right. She goes, wait, what did you say back there? I said, oh, don't manifest it. She goes, yeah, that. I'm never going to forget you. She goes and look at her and the bags started coming and she looked at her clock and she's like, I am going to make it. I'm like, you were the whole time. And it was so, whether she actually remembers me forever or not, I think she could. And that's not a make me feel good situation, great. But it was more of like, hey, that moment was so important for her to realize she has agency in her experience, in what she's creating. But it's so important to realize your automated habits, these programs that are just running. And a lot of times these programs are not serving you in great ways. And when I say you, trust me, this is all of us, right? It's just in my life, I've done so much inner work to come to this place of self-awareness, which is literally, to me, it's like the sexiest attribute of emotional intelligence and self-mastery. It might not be that sexy to most people, right? Like, self-confidence has a much stronger fucking branding around it, right? Self-love. And if you know me, and if you don't, you will. I mean, these are always part of the conversation with me. They live in this conversation as well. But you can't even fucking touch self-confidence and self-love on the high states that you want to be touching and embodying without strong self-awareness. It starts with self-awareness. Otherwise, you're just on a script. Is that script good for you? Is it giving you the experiences you want? I don't know, But when you start to really come into higher levels of self-awareness, you do know that answer. And in my life, especially because I have been a diarist my whole life, journaling, going inward instead of running from myself. And, especially in hard moments, I've always run towards myself, which has fortified this sanctuary of intimacy and safety within me. And that has been literally, I've developed that my whole life, right? And I continue to do so. So in that, experience with myself and this relationship that I've built with myself, I've been able to fortify really potent levels of self-awareness. At this point, it's so fucking impressive. For those of you who have not yet heard me talk about what I call my harmony alarm, this is really going to integrate nicely with the self-awareness piece. And, even if you have heard it, it's maybe a good idea to hear it again. Maybe it's going to be useful to you. So I have what I call a harmony alarm in me. And because harmony is really, it's my kind of natural disposition. How I move day to day in my life is with harmony. It's a state of wholeness, really. I am someone very accustomed to facing challenges. I seek the fight in my life. As an entrepreneur, there's always challenges, that you're wrestling with. And, anytime that you are really extracting greatness from yourself, you're in the fucking arena and you are facing challenges, right? So challenges for me, opportunities for growth. I embrace them, I encourage them, I seek them, right? And that being said, that's important because even in that, reality of how I'm constantly moving throughout my life with challenge, there's so much inner harmony with me. And I think that's important to also explain that just because you're constantly engaging with challenges does not mean that you're a mess inside. No, in fact, I'm the fucking eye of the storm. Like, I know how to move powerfully in chaos because of my relationship with challenges, right? So harmony is really my baseline state, such to that when my harmony is thrown off, and this is more of a feeling of insecurity, frustration, some kind of internal friction, like worry or fear, that it's so fucking strong to me at this point that it's almost like, it's actually really funny. I don't even need to hear the full thought that maybe, is going to produce the feeling of, worry or insecurity or, any of that energy, right? Frustration. It's like I can smell the fucking thought like a fucking Glade plugin from 20 miles away. And that my system is so purified from this fucking energy that I don't even need to hear it at this point because of my self-awareness level. The harmony alarm goes off and I'm like, okay. And I can immediately just go, okay, we got to reset right now. And there are tactics and, different things I do. I think the most important thing that I can share with you that I do in those moments is, first of all, I'm very harnessed in the truth. The truth, meaning like, so maybe there's something that is making me feel insecure, but the truth in me knows that that's not the truth. That's not the reality. The truth in me is not insecure, right? So my work then is to go back into the truth that I know from a soul level, right? So it's like you're disconnected from yourself right now in this moment, in this, experience, me, like Roxanne, you're being disconnected from yourself and you got to come back to yourself. So how do you come back to yourself? How do you come back into that truth? How do you come back into that knowing when the harmony alarm goes off, right? Thank you, self-awareness, right? And there are different things I do, journaling always, a walk. It could be connecting with a loved one. It could be movement, because I really come into my body and it just, everything comes together for me. And I'm like, yeah, that's fucking who you are kind of thing, So there are a lot of different tactics that I use, but the most important piece to share with you there is just the power of self-awareness. It's so potent that when you get to such a strong level of self-awareness, like, I have in my life, which is why I'm always talking about it and sharing and encouraging you to do the same in your life, that in any instant, any like moment of friction or disharmony, you're going to become aware of it. And it's not a bad thing. It's an excellent thing because we're never going to be able to be omitted from, these feelings and these, circumstances that will undoubtedly show up, right? And try to bully us emotionally, right? So, but the most important thing is, are you aware of it so you don't get swept by it, right? So, for example, like if you feel frustrated, but you don't have that awareness to realize that something just got you so fucking wounded up and now you're just inside like steaming and just whatever, that's where a shitty moment turns into a shitty week, turns into a shitty month, and it can, become embedded into, your entire frequency. And now your whole reality is being shaped by that one shitty experience. But self-awareness, self-mastery, right? Self-awareness, a core pillar of self-mastery, allows you to be aware of it. And that awareness gives you the space for then to determine what do you want to do in that moment. You certainly don't want to just be functioning with that emotion, right? So then it gives you an opportunity for you to, whatever those options are for you, to do those things that will help you come back into a state, your baseline state, where you're calm, where you can think through things, where you could be less emotional, right? And that's always going to give you a better result, when you're facing any kind of, hard moment in your life. So that self-awareness piece is something that is really important to just think about, really. And again, I'm just going to put emphasis on this. Journaling, I don't think there's anything more powerful. Meditation is like, I think also incredibly supportive, in my life it is too. But I really think that journaling is the most powerful supportive tool to help you become stronger in your self-awareness, because it really gives you the opportunity to engage with yourself, with your thoughts, with your experiences in a very dynamic way. You're not just in your mind, but you're actually very conscious and engaged with what you're sharing, what you're experiencing, what you're going through, and then having the writing piece of it is priceless, because conversations are excellent and helpful, but we forget about things. We all do. Or we can even like rearrange the memory, and that's a fact. We all kind of remember things differently. But when you write it, it's there, it's recorded. And when you can go back and you can witness and revisit your processing, I mean, this is literally gold. This is literally the most important data that you could ever collect, for your self-mastery journey, to become a self-actualized individual in your life, to live, with your highest expression being put out in the world and for you to be thriving in your life, right? We need this information. So journaling will always be fucking talked about through my channels and always the number one tool to help you develop the most loving, trusted, and unbreakable relationship with your authentic self. Queen, this is your call to greatness. If you are ready, and I mean truly ready, to shift anything in your outer experience, your outer reality, your finances, your health, your relationship, anything career related, anything spiritual, any shift that you want to make that has to do with your reality has to first start with shifting who you are, your self-identity. My Future Self digital course is your supportive blueprint that helps you achieve this. The inner shapes the outer. So when you get crystal clear on your core beliefs, your core values, your core desires, your high, hard goals, when you learn how to rewrite parts of your past that maybe don't feel so great and instead leverage those experiences to be fuel for you to expand and to grow, this is how you start to change the game behind the game of life, which all starts and ends with you. I've designed this course from my heart, soul, and experience to be a femininely fierce experience for you to uncover and connect with your most authentic self. And as a Future Self student, you get 3 months free membership access to Queendom. This is where we really get to connect. Queendom is such a rad, sacred, empowered space where every month you get a live Q&A call with me so we can connect and troubleshoot any area of your life that you would like, or just get some encouragement from me as well as the other queens in the community. This is a really sacred space, and I will see you in Queendom. Okay. Now, speaking of authentic self, let's move on from there. On my flight home last night, I was listening to a song that, oh my gosh, I mean, just thinking about it pulls me right back into that energy. So my life is music. Music is my life. I literally, my whole life is like a discography. It's like, if you follow me on Instagram, my story posts are always 99.99999% of the time, there's music with it, right? I'm storytelling with music because music is my first love. Then writing came in, right? Music is a frequency that I don't know. It's different for me. I live my music, So there are certain segments of my life where, and I'm sure a lot of you probably have this too, where, there were just playlists for that particular segment of your life, where you're just always playing those albums or that playlist or that artist or whatever. And last night, I was listening to this one artist I fucking love. And I remember, just listening to this album, or there were a couple albums actually from this artist, over and over and over again in this very transformative part of my life. I feel like I'm always transforming, I'm always ascending, but there's definitely moments, these kind of standout moments where it's like, shit, there was a lot that happened for you in that segment. So I'm listening to the song and it just had me thinking about how much I've accomplished, how much I've done in my life, how much I've constantly been saying fucking yes to me. And when I say me, I mean my authentic self. Like, no matter what I have to face And oftentimes there's been so many challenges. I've just never backed down from that fight. And I've always embraced, my authenticity, what I've genuinely wanted to do. And I've moved from that beat. And listening to this song, or that there were a couple songs last night on the flight, I was just thinking back about this whole journey. And I was thinking about how, especially I'm writing my first official book right now, which I can't wait to share with you guys. And it's centered in, breaking free from the limitations that would keep you from operating from the power of your most authentic self. And, I don't believe that anybody can truly live a life of self-mastery and thrive at the highest state from within and out. I'm not just talking about, you achieved this in your career and you just did this financially. Like, that's fuck yeah. But that's only, those are a couple pieces in the picture. I want the holistic version of success, the holistic version of wealth, right? For me, that's an inner outer experience, and it starts from within. How do you feel about you? Not just, look, this is what I've done. I mean, that's great, but how do you feel about you? And that answer to me is the first marker of success in life. So when I'm listening to the music and I'm thinking back about, holy shit, girl, you have literally, there was a point in my life, you guys, where I was in the sky almost as much as I was on the ground. I mean, maybe not as much, but I mean, I was always on a flight. I lived in New York, I lived in Hawaii, I was back and forth all the time. And I was just thinking about all the fucking guts, the bold energy that I had been living from in those, segments. I mean, still to this day I am, it's just that things now at this point, and for those of you who don't know, I mean, I'm 45, right? So I've done a lot already, and I'm still a baby and have so much more to do, but there's certainly more of a stabilization, whereas like before, when I was really going for it, I wasn't always so fucking stable. It really wasn't, but I was willing to play that game with life. I was willing to bet on myself. I was willing to, just face any kind of uncomfortable that came with saying yes to me, because that uncomfortable was something that I felt I can live through and handle versus the discomfort that lived on the other side, like me denying myself, suffocating my true authenticity, my true self-expression. I could never do that. I can't. And I also believe that, I know that's not easy. I know it on a professional level from all the women that I mentor and, connect with. I know it just from observing, individuals. It's not easy. It's not common. And for some cosmic fucking reason, I came out in this world with an edge in that space. For some reason, me choosing my authenticity over not was always my route. It's just, it's always been the fucking way for me. And in this moment last night where I was on the plane and I was thinking about that reality, and thinking about how, maybe the reason why my soul, like why I came out with this edge is because I am the person or one of the individuals here to help you, and help as many people as I can in the world to live from their most authentic self. That is where your true power is. That's your core essence. To deny yourself of that is you're literally denying yourself of your absolute potential, of your highest creative power, of your ultimate connectivity with yourself, and that's not where you want to be living from. It's just not. So it was just special for me. And maybe also because I perhaps don't reflect in a way where I really celebrate a lot of what I've already achieved. And that's because there's just so much, I'm so compelled by my future. I'm so turned on by my future. It's so fucking exciting to me every day to get up and think about what there is to accomplish, to create, to experience, to fucking beat and win all of the above, it's very easy for me to just kind of, like let all my stories live in my journal and just kind of keep it moving forward, But the power of the music was like, wow, no, hold up for a moment. You have fucking done way more than anybody here knows about. My journey coming out of a prior career life and into my career life now, which is essentially me, right? And just kind of building off of me. A lot of times people in my position and in my sort of category of work have this story, right? That they've, really built and that's helped them to propel, forward and really make their mark in the territory, in the field, right? This is my story. This is where I come from. I didn't do that. I straight came out of fucking left field. Like, hey, what's up? You know what I mean? And dropped some serious thought-provoking ideas with absolute authority, authenticity, and conviction. And you don't have to like it, but it's the truth coming from me. Because truth is felt. It comes through. It's a frequency that cuts through everything else. And I didn't do that. But do I have the stories? Fuck yeah. Are they going to come out? Absolutely. But, when I was in this moment in the plane thinking about there is so much that has been achieved and accomplished. And even if, now, there's people who, there's people who at this stage of my career still people overlook me all the time, and it's normal. Let me just say that. Again, I study humans. I work with celebrities for so long. Oh my goodness. You see a lot of shit, not them necessarily for sure, but it's more of how people function around people that are, out there. And it's just, it's incredible. How it can create certain expressions out of individuals, when they're around certain people who are more high profile and this and that. And it's fascinating. It truly is. But, there are a lot of people who can overlook me right now, even though I'm established, I have absolute authority in my space. And, but I am still just fucking climbing right now. And I know where this goes. I know where this story goes. And that's the most important thing. That's probably the piece to tease out here, is that if you are someone that, you're in a similar position and people overlook you, maybe you're not there yet. You're not good enough. You're not cool enough. You're not fucking popular enough. You're not whatever, all that shit. Don't ever let that person be you. This is so important, you guys. I truly believe that life is just all about us individually. We're here to learn more about ourselves. We are. And it's not just self-serving. We're here to contribute and to connect with others. But to truly know who you are is actually how you can show up in best form in every aspect of your life, right? You're living from your authentic self. Your authentic self is what you are putting out in the world, and that will always feel the best for you, And it's always where you're going to be the most potent, magnetic, and the greatest contributor. You can't be a great contributor if you're not truly being who you are, right? So if you're in that position where you're being overlooked or you maybe feel under-recognized, undervalued, any of that, I just want you to realize that that's always an invitation for you to go into yourself and ask yourself, well, how do you feel about you? Do you believe that? Because the minute that you subscribe to that feeling, well, you own it. So don't own it if it's not the truth. Recognize it. For me, I just kind of roll it off, and maybe it's a little fuel to the fire if I'm fucking gonna just share it. Yeah. But never in this way of like, it's not a chip on the shoulder for me. And the reason why is because I just know how humans function. It's not personal against me. They're just fucking in their world. We're all in our world, right? But the most important thing is for you to always know that, you know, people are always going to overlook you, underplay your fucking value, this, that. You just can never, ever let that person be you. Ever. In my world, no fucking way. I love, honor, and respect myself so much, and I will never let that. And if I feel like I'm being really bothered by that under recognition or that whatever, that's my invitation. Where are you at right now, Rox? Go into yourself, because you are getting swept by that feeling, which is now putting you in a position where you're going to subscribe to it, which is then informing yourself that that's what you believe about you. Do you see what I'm saying? So to unsubscribe, like, it doesn't mean that you're not going to see it. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean you're not going to have that feeling. But do not take ownership of that feeling, because if you do, you are now informing your self-identity that that's a truth, that you actually believe that maybe you're not good enough, that maybe you're just not there yet. Don't do that. Don't do that. You now cannot unlearn what I've just shared with you. So now it is your duty every fucking single time you feel that feeling to go into yourself and have a conversation with yourself. What's the truth here? What's the truth? You know, and if you feel like there's any kind of truth in there, well, then maybe you're just not showing up and actually doing yourself a true service in terms of like how you're showing up to your life. You know, like, what are your standards? Do you have them? Are you aware of them? Are you living to them? Are you being honest with yourself? You got to be honest with yourself at all times, or else all of this is fucking pointless. Turn it off right now. You know what I mean? But if you truly know who you are authentically, you're truly showing up every day, and you're fucking living that authenticity, and you're applying yourself in all the ways that matter, and you are achieving things that matter to you, fuck. Just keep it fucking moving. And anytime those situations come around, like I said, invitation, either you'll just laugh at it, but if it feels like something that's really like getting to you, just go into yourself, check in with self, and reestablish the connection with the truth of you, right? And you won't even care after that anymore, you know? And then, yeah. And then let time do its thing. Time will do that. It's funny. I've had that happen. I had it happen in my last career. It's hilarious what happens. First they overlook you, and then they're like, oh my God, you know? And it's just like, all right. All right. So yeah, a lot more I can say, but I want to actually wrap out, and I want to do a little fun instant magic oracle with you. Manifestation, self-awareness. So manifestation, your dominant thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, especially as it pertains to the relationship that you have with yourself, is shaping your reality. I am not force-feeding an idea on you. Take it or leave it. But if it resonates with you, then you do feel it as a truth. Then it's just a solid reminder for you. And trust me, I always embrace those reminders, even though it is a lockdown, hardcore truth in my life, right? Self-awareness. Do the work to fortify your self-awareness. You will not regret that work. It will pay you for the rest of your fucking life in outrageous ways, right? Journal, meditation, be honest with yourself, ask yourself the questions that are going to help you to observe your thoughts and your ways, not judge, right? The student lens. And when you are in moments where, you know, you're on your journey, if you find yourself in any kind of situation where you feel undervalued, underrecognized, overlooked, any of that, I just want you to remember what I said, that it's always an invitation for you to check in with yourself about what you believe about yourself, right? So you're not subscribing to that experience, right? And then having that experience start to inform, like embed into your self-identity. You're not doing that, right? You know better now. And I'm recapping here, obviously, the self-awareness to the harmony alarm, right? Well, that takes some time to get to, but hopefully these fun seeds that I plant in your mind, I think that it's helpful, especially talking about this kind of stuff, self-awareness, but like harmony alarm will probably stick. So the next time, and the more you hear it, you start to feel friction, frustration. You're like, you're thrown off. You don't feel calm. That's the harmony alarm going off. What do you want to do in that moment? And you've got options, and you got to remember that you have options, right? Always have options. All right. Instant Magic Oracle. This is just a fun book that I recently got. So guidance to all life's questions from your higher self. So I'll just ask this question of, what does my incredible community badasses need to know? And I have no idea. This is going to be so funny right now. I have no idea what's going to happen. What do they need to know that's going to help them stay on their highest path right here, right now? All right. I'm just going to flip these pages. Flip my hair too, because there's something extra magical that happens when I flip my fucking hair. All right. 1, 2, 3, stop. Oh. Everything is going to be all right. The universe is making way for you right now. With a double-faced cat. Trying to see if you can see it. It's so cute, this book. I mean, that's awesome. Because there's some funny shit in here. There's like spells, be aware of temptation. I think that was very perfect, like just perfect message that fits into this episode. So I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. Put it in the comments, or anything that you want to share in the comments. I love getting the comments from there, from you. You can always DM me. You could always just hit me up on Instagram at Roxy Look. And yeah, I hope some of what I shared with you really, really hit you in the right way today. And there's always a lot more coming. So more coming soon. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review.